These are the stories making the headlines at this hour. South Korea's inflation continues to slow, dropping back into the 2% rate in January. But with the still high prices of fresh produce, authorities will remove tariffs on fruits ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday. The U.S. has approved plans to strike Iranian targets in Syria and Iraq. Officials say the strikes will take place over several days in retaliation for the deadly drone attack that killed 3 U.S. troops. 2024 Winter Youth Olympic Games came to a close last night after successfully hosting hundreds of young athletes from around the world. Team Korea ended its run with a golden finale. Good afternoon. We start with a positive sign on the domestic inflation front. Price increases have continued to slow in January, dropping to a 2% range. But authorities are set to impose a series of measures to tackle the high price of fruit ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday. Moon Hye-ryun has the details.
Inflation in South Korea eased back into the 2% range for the first time in 6 months, despite soaring prices of fresh produce. Data from Statistics Korea released on Friday show that the country's consumer price index, a key gauge of inflation, rose 2.8% in January compared to the same month the year before. It's the third month in a row that year-on-year growth of CPI has seen a decline. Figures saw a rise after dropping to 2.4% in July and then began to ease after hitting 3.8% in October. Core inflation, excluding volatile food and energy prices, came to 2.5%. While the index measuring 144 daily necessities rose 3.4%. Prices of fresh produce have continued to climb due to poor weather conditions throughout the latter half of last year, with the rise in prices for agricultural goods remaining in the 15% range for 2 months straight. Fruit prices in particular saw the largest hike at just under 27%, with the government pledging last month to tackle climbing costs by removing or lowering tariffs for 21 different types of fruit. With the upcoming national holidays, Seoul or Lunar New Year, Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok announced further measures for the holiday season during an emergency economic meeting on Friday.
We will invest an additional 10 billion Korean won to stabilize prices of expensive fruits such as apples and pears, and prepare for possible supply instability by increasing cultivation of apples and pears by 8,000 tons this year.
Transport costs, however, fell by 0.3% compared to January 2023, continuing the trend of on-year decline since November last year. With the introduction of the climate card last weekend, which allows limitless public transport access in the capital Seoul, and plans to implement another type of public transport discount card called the K-Pass in May, the government hopes to lower transport fees even further. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
Now, how are consumers and small business owners finding ways to live with inflation? Our e-searching went out to find it out.
People in South Korea continue to grapple with high costs as inflation remains stubbornly high. Where does this leave people? They have to look for ways to spend less, such as when they're eating out. This is a noodle restaurant located in an alleyway. A bowl of noodles here is only 4,500 won, or around $3. This is especially impressive considering how the cost of eating out has jumped more than 6% for 2 straight years, the highest level seen in 30 years. The owner says she was able to keep prices low thanks to the support she gets from her regular customers.
There are even people that come every day, and it makes me happy to see familiar faces. I'm very grateful for them.
The restaurant has been designated as a fair price business, an honor that the Interior Ministry and local governments give to businesses that meet certain price and sanitation standards.
I come at least twice a week because it's a lot cheaper than other restaurants, but still good.
Businesses that receive this designation are provided with free essential items such as trash bags and even have cheaper utility bills. And starting February this year, the Interior Ministry is expanding benefits as it signed an agreement last Thursday with local credit card companies to provide 2,000 won discounts each time a customer spends more than 10,000 won at these businesses. Another area where people have to deal with high prices is when they do their grocery shopping. You can also see how more people than ever are doing their grocery shopping at places where they don't have to deal with high food prices, like this wholesale market. The price of strawberries, for instance, which jumped more than 150% in December, are only around 5,000 won here.
I come here more often than large supermarkets these days because you can get fresh products for cheaper.
People are also going to unmanned stores that sell eggs for cheaper as they can save on labor costs. Eggs here are priced as low as around 5,000 won for a carton of 15 eggs, which are more than 8,000 won at some large supermarkets. Even though we visited the store late in the morning, a lot of the eggs were already sold. With the Bank of Korea forecasting annual inflation to stabilize slowly, people are likely to continue turning to these affordable options. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
The South Korean government plans to boost the country's hydrogen industry by improving related regulations, including the plans is increasing the number of hydrogen fueling stations in urban areas. Our business correspondent Shin Ha-young reports.
More hydrogen fueling stations will be established in urban areas of South Korea. That's according to plans announced during an emergency economic meeting hosted by Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok on Friday. The government aims to boost the hydrogen industry by improving related regulations.
The government will improve regulations in key areas, including hydrogen production facilities and distance rules for hydrogen fueling stations, to boost the country's hydrogen industry.
Under current regulations, hydrogen fueling stations are required to maintain a distance of 12 to 32 meters from places like residential areas and stores for safety reasons. The government plans to ease this restriction by allowing stations to be built in urban areas with the condition that protective walls are built. With this change, it aims to increase the number of hydrogen fueling stations from 192 in 2023 to 458 by 2030. It said it will also ease rules regarding liquid hydrogen. Currently, businesses are not allowed to operate both LPG stations and liquid hydrogen stations together, but this may change later this year with the implementation of new safety standards. Meanwhile, during the meeting on Friday, the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs announced plans to double the size of the Korean food industry. Considering the growing global demand for Korean cuisine, it aims to increase the number of Korean restaurants abroad to 15,000 by 2027. To achieve these goals, the ministry plans to enhance the expertise of Korean food professionals. The government will also digitize 100 Korean recipes and offer a variety of content, including traditional liquor and food pairings. With these plans, the ministry aims to boost the industry from a valuation of 152 trillion Korean won in 2021 to 300 trillion won, or around $226 billion by 2027. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Mega-cap tech companies in the U.S. have announced their 2023 fourth quarter earnings report. The world's largest e-commerce company, Amazon, said its sales revenue saw an on-year increase of 14% compared to the same quarter last year, outperforming market expectations. Meta reported strong fourth quarter revenue of $40.1 billion as it integrates AI into its core products. The company also announced that it will pay dividends to investors for the first time. Apple's earnings also beat revenue estimates, but stock prices fell as the company saw a 13% decline in sales in China, a key market for iPhone. South Korea and the U.S. have completed their first joint special operations exercise of this year. According to the South Korean Army on Friday, the drills were as part of combined efforts to master joint operational procedures and reinforce individual combat capabilities. The two-week exercise, which began on January 22nd, mobilized special forces from South Korean U.S. Army Special Forces, commonly known as Green Berets, at a live fire complex in Gyeonggi-do province. The U.S. has approved plans to strike Iranian targets in Syria and Iraq. Officials say the strikes will take place over several days in retaliation for the deadly drone attack that killed 3 U.S. troops. Lee Seung-jae with the latest.
In response to the deadly drone attack that killed 3 U.S. soldiers in Jordan on Sunday, Washington has approved plans for a series of strikes against Iranian targets in Syria and Iraq. According to CBS News, U.S. officials said these strikes will take place over a number of days, with weather conditions likely to dictate when they begin. Although the U.S. military can attack even in poor weather conditions, it believes that visibility is important to prevent accidentally attacking civilians near the target. In response to the timing of the attack, White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said he would not comment on specifics, saying that hinting at the timeline for strikes would be the worst thing he could do. However, he stressed that President Biden had made up his mind on retaliation plans against the deadly drone attack in Jordan, adding the strikes would be a multi-layered approach over a period of time. Washington recently confirmed that Iran-backed Islamic resistance in Iraq, an umbrella group of militias, was responsible for Sunday's attack. It also assessed that the drone used in the attack was manufactured in Iran. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Thursday issued an executive order targeting violent Israeli settlers in the West Bank, who he said undermine stability in the region. According to a report by Politico, the order will impose sanctions on several individuals accused of having participated in violent acts. It specifically targets 4 Israeli individuals accused of directly perpetrating violence or intimidation in the West Bank. They are accused of initiating and leading a riot, setting buildings, fields, and vehicles on fire, assaulting civilians, and damaging property. The White House notified Israel of their plans ahead of the order. Farmers in Europe continue protesting over rising costs and regulations related to environmental policies. The European Council, following a meeting in Brussels, announced it would come up with solutions. Park Kwon-woo with the latest.
European farmers continued their protests on Thursday, blocking the center of Brussels near the European Parliament building where an EU summit took place. The farmers reportedly started fires, threw eggs at the Parliament building, and confronted police who responded with water cannons and tear gas.
We are here to protest and to bring to the attention of the European Commission the various problems faced by farmers, such as income and environmental obligations that increase day by day and affect farmers' income.
Farmers have been asking for solutions to rising costs, low income, cheap imports, and regulations associated with EU environmental policies. European leaders discussed support for Ukraine with additional aid of 50 billion euros and said they would come up with solutions for the farmers.
We listened to the main complaints and worries and concerns of the farmers, and we discussed some of the short-term measures we have already taken, for example, concerning fallow land, but also the mid- and long-term concept.
The EU offered to protect farmers from cheap Ukrainian imports and proposed a delay in the implementation of new ecological measures. And they said they would come up with a proposal at the Agricultural Council that is set to be held at the end of the month. In France, where farmers have been protesting for weeks, the government announced plans to gradually reduce subsidies on agricultural diesel and increasing aid along with controlling imports. The farmers halted their protest of road blockades accordingly, but said they would continue their demonstrations in a different way. Park Kwon-woo, Arirang News.
The World Health Organization projects that the number of new cancer cases globally will soar 77% in less than 3 decades. The WHO's International Agency for Research on Cancer released its biannual report on Thursday, which said that over 35 million new cancer cases are predicted in 2050, from around 20 million newly diagnosed in 2022. It cited tobacco, alcohol, obesity, and air pollution as key factors in the predicted rise. Countries with low Human Development Index, which measures the country's living standards, were to see the biggest proportional increase, as well as cancer mortality. 2024 Winter Youth Olympic Games came to a close last night after successfully hosting hundreds of young athletes from around the world. Team Korea ended its run with a golden finale. Our Song Yujin reports.
Goodbye, Gangwon 2024. The Gangwon 2024 Winter Youth Olympic Games came to a close on Thursday night. Though heavy snow warnings were issued in most parts of Gangwon province, the weather did little to dampen the festivities.
This is our 6th day here. We watched figure skating and took a look around the festival booths, like K-food tryouts and photo booths. I hope Korea hosts more international sports events like this in the future.
I hope the athletes enjoy this beautiful snowy day as they've just finished competing.
The closing ceremony started with a pre-show at the plaza outside the Gangneung Hockey Center. Unlike the opening ceremony, the event was open to everyone, so no need to buy a ticket. The 35-minute official ceremony began at 8 p.m. It featured a screening of highlights from the Games, the parade of the flags, and the extinguishing of the first-ever digital Olympic cauldron. Around 1,700 people attended the event, including International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach, Gangwon 2024 Organizing Committee Chairman Choi Jong-gu, athletes, volunteers, and spectators. Team Korea also had its grand finale on Thursday, ending its Olympic run the same way it started, with gold. Gold medals were added in the figure skating team event and men's snowboard halfpipe. With this, Korea has won a total of 7 gold, 6 silver, and 4 bronze. So throughout the Games, we witnessed remarkable performances from 1,800 athletes representing 70 national Olympic committees across 15 disciplines in 7 sports. Now, with the closing ceremony, Gangwon 2024 has ended its 14-day journey. Song Yujin, Arirang News, Gangneung.
Seoul's symbolic mascot has been given a makeover for the first time since it was introduced back in 2008. The new look was revealed on Thursday in the city's Dongdaemun Design Plaza amid hopes to promote the symbol called Haechi and for it to regain its former popularity. Based on a mythical creature that served as a protector of the city, Haechi is now pink and blue instead of its former yellow and orange hue. With the transformation complete, it will be featured in the city's upcoming festivals such as the Seoul Festa.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. European Union member state leaders unanimously agreed to extend a new aid plan worth some $54 billion for Ukraine on Thursday. After weeks of delays due to resistance from Hungary, EU chief Ursula von der Leyen said the decision meant Europe had become stronger. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban agreed to go ahead with the Ukraine aid package at a meeting of the 27 EU leaders in Brussels on the same day. Orban had vetoed the Ukraine aid plan during the previous summit meeting in December. Von der Leyen and European Council President Charles Michel said the deal was a signal to the United States to push forward with an additional $61 billion in assistance for Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that he was grateful for the decision. In Peru, Vladimiro Montesinos, the former intelligence chief for the country's ex-president, Alberto Fujimori, was sentenced to 19 years and 8 months in prison on Wednesday for his involvement in the 1992 massacre of 6 farmers. 78-year-old Montesinos, who has been in prison since 2001, pleaded guilty to charges of homicide, murder, and forced disappearance on Monday. In 1992, 6 farmers were taken from their homes and executed by an undercover military group in the town of Pativilca after they were accused of being members of a rebel group, all under the knowledge of then-President Fujimori and Montesinos. The public prosecutor's office requested 25-year sentences for Montesinos, Fujimori, and 20 other defendants. Fujimori, who was only released from prison in December after serving 16 years, has pleaded not guilty. Montesinos has been in prison since 2001 for numerous counts of corruption schemes and human rights violations. The 7-time Formula One world champion, Lewis Hamilton, has confirmed a shock move to leave Mercedes and join Ferrari for the 2025 season. Ferrari confirmed the signing of Hamilton on a multi-year deal on Thursday evening, replacing Carlos Sainz Jr. Hamilton activated a release clause in his current 2-year contract with Mercedes, which was due to expire at the end of 2025. The 39-year-old British race car driver won 6 world titles for Team Mercedes after joining in 2013. He's the most successful driver in F1 history alongside Michael Schumacher. The guitar collection of British rock band Dire Straits' former frontman, Mark Knopfler, hit the auction house in London on Thursday, selling for over $11.2 million. Thursday's auction included over 120 guitars and amplifiers used by the 74-year-old rock star Knopfler in several performances of Dire Straits' biggest songs. The auction house, Christie's, confirmed that the collection set multiple records, including the 1959 Gibson Les Paul, which was used to record Money for Nothing, selling for some $900,000, which is a record for that guitar. Knopfler is donating 25% of the total sales to 3 charities, the British Red Cross, Tusk, and Brave Hearts of the Northeast. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Those of us in the capital are pleased to see much improved air quality today, but other western regions are seeing bad dust levels with dust advisories still in place. So please keep a face mask on until the air quality improves later in the day. We are under cloudy skies while east of Gangwon-do and parts of the southern provinces and Jeju are being affected by wet clouds, and expect to see more snow in the east of Gangwon-do with up to 3 centimeters in the forecast, while Jeju Island will see rain of 5 to 20 millimeters for the next couple of days. Afternoon highs should go up similar to yesterday. Jeju will be rainy and windy all day today with a high of 10 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Wet conditions continue in southern regions and Jeju on Saturday, while the capital will have a brief taste of early spring this weekend. Sunday marks Ipchum, the onset of spring on the seasonal calendar, but it is going to take a while for spring warmth to fully arrive in the country. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions. While the world will see a 77% surge in new cancer cases by 2050, the impact will not be fair. Poor countries will see not only the greatest proportional increase, but also a higher mortality rate, with only 39% of countries providing basics coverage for cancer. For breast cancer, which is the most common type after lung cancer, women in poor countries are 50% less likely to be diagnosed than their counterparts in rich countries. And they face a higher risk of dying from the disease, with 1 in every 48, whereas 1 in 71 in higher income countries. As the world calls for collective action to guarantee adequate treatment for all, that is where I'll be pursuing my next endeavor as a Leave Arirang as of today, because where you live shouldn't affect whether you live. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.